All right, a little quick breakdown for today. As per usual, for anybody new here, here's the Cyzner sauce, right? If you don't know how to use it, here's the imbalance, right? What we look for is whatever we start with, we must end with. So in this case, we start with a bullish candle, so we must end with a bullish candle, right? So this right here would be our liquidity injection, right? Now, once we have this liquidity injection, right, we have to understand that there are different phases within this liquidity injection. Here we enter phase 2. Here down here we also enter phase 2. Originally we were in phase 1. Now we can move out and understand that we have entered phase 3 on the top, right? So phase 3 usually gets completely liquidated, as we have seen here. Generally, after this liquidation, right, we see that we have broke the injection right here, right? So what was the candle that caused the break? This one, right? And then what was the breaker candle, right? Oh wait, well that was this. So this was the one breaking, and this was the breaker candle causing it to break. Now, where was the last candle to sweep liquidity for this OB? That was here, right? So we understand that our stop loss can be extended down to this point here, right? Or at least that price has the ability to come to that area down there. All right, so now that we have that understanding, right? So here's daily perspective. We could originally have thought that we were supposed to have a reaction here. However, what might have stopped that is if we come into the 4-hour, we're going to see a different perspective. Let me go ahead and get rid of session breaks. Okay. Also, I just want to say congratulations to those who passed their funding challenges today. It was great to see. I posted that on my story. And congratulations to one of you who's getting close to passing their challenge. That is also great. So yeah, that's hype. Anyways, let's get back into it. Here to here, right, we have an hourly or 4-hour like structure coming in around this point, right, which was an inducement. Because of this sweep here, we could understand that the market will remain bearish until our next high time frame sweep, right? So until we have that next high time frame sweep, that's when we're going to look to go the opposite direction. It looks like we're not going to have a high time frame sweep really until this low around down here. The reason why I say that is the last 4-hour inducement that caused this whole move to run up, right? I could argue that this actually might be the 4-hour inducement that might cause price to go higher. But with that being said, I'm just going to mark these in, right? This looks like it's about equal distant lows. These are equal distant lows right here on the 4-hour. So what I'm going to do is actually get rid of this right here. This right here. EQD is normally a very powerful inducement, right? So we know that this level right here is probably going to have a powerful reaction off of it, right? So EQD down here. And we know what else that this is. SP1, SP2, right? Actually, perhaps it might be SP3 because originally what was going on here, higher highs, higher lows, this came to break down here and expand to external structure, right? And now actually, I'm going to change these colors because they actually become internal 4-hour structure. If this is confusing, let me reword it one more time. So basically, we had this structure forming, right, and the injection coming out, right? It wasn't until this sweep down here, break a structure, and this sweep here that formed the new external liquidity, right? So this right here, as we see expanding, when we see this expanding up and this expanding down, that becomes the external liquidity. Everything building within it becomes the internal liquidity. So this right here, the EQD, and these breaks of structure right here are actually internal structure, right, to this external structure here. Hopefully that clarifies things a little bit more for you guys. Now that we have the 4-hour marked up, let's move our way into the 1-hour. Let's see what type of structure and stuff is going on here. I don't really want to use my injections anymore. They aren't really that important. I did miss something. I missed one 4-hour injection that was actually crucial to today's analysis. Right here was originally phase 1 of my injection, right? Now this injection actually gets expanded out into phase 2 on both sides. Now, if we look today, right, this was right before London, right, or right before Frankfurt, right? This was the candle that broke the injection. This is the candle causing it to break. And you can clearly see that that candle swept, right? Now, because that candle swept, we can assume that this is the OB that's going to cause the continuations, right? So we are understanding, and this is what I failed to mark in before today's analysis, right? I did not see that on the 4 hour we had this candle in here. I woke up at 7, okay? And I was tired as fuck. I wasn't really looking. But this is the reason why part of the reason why longs didn't necessarily work today after those 3 sweeps, right? It was because of the 4 hour confluence, 4 hour injection break, right? That caused this push down. And as you can see, this was the last area to sweep liquidity on the 4 hour as well. Hopefully that makes sense so far from a high time frame perspective, right? As you can see, this is where we would have hit shorts, you know, around London time. And we're going to see here on some lower time frames what could have happened. All right, now we can get rid of these injections. Now we can pull up my favorite session breaks. All right, I want to see the structure of the 1 hour on both sides. Notice how there's internal liquidity, right? Internal liquidity inside of what? In external liquidity. So this liquidity is actually internal to this, which is external. But that's funny, because this is also external liquidity. The important thing to understand is the external liquidity is just the expanding liquidity, right? This structure moves up, this structure moves up, this structure moves down, this structure moves down. Expanding liquidity is generally external liquidity. Higher highs, higher lows, you know, majority of the time that actually becomes internal liquidity because it's not expanding, right? Your eyes will start to adjust to it. You'll see what I mean. I promise you it just takes time for those who don't quite have it clicking yet. Anyways, here is higher highs, higher lows on the hourly. All this right here was unimportant structure-wise, so I just came right into here and started marking in structure, right? And that's where I was getting these liquidity grabs from, right? One here, and the one we were trading, I'm going to make this a normal color, was right here. Now, considering this push that was happening that I didn't see, I would have actually looked for sells, right? We look at the 1 hour, we would have actually caught sells here, right? If we look at the 1 hour, right, we know this is 1 hour structure. Look what happened, right? We had this candle come and break, right? What was the candle that broke it? This one, right? Where was the last sweep? Up here, right? We could have had this and then came in to find more refinements, right? This is clearly order flow, right? We could have gotten entries right here. Hopefully you all see that, right? This should have been where we were grabbing sells instead of buys. I mess up too, you know, I make mistakes. I don't see everything. I need to wake up a little earlier, I guess, to make a full analysis. Because I woke up this morning, all I did was put in these 3 liquidity grabs. I didn't account for anything else besides this OB right here that was put on the daily, right? I didn't have any understanding of what was going on from a high time frame perspective, right? I never saw this. High time frame was already pointing that, all right, we have the majority of the market selling. Then our injection even told us that the market wanted to sell post this sweep here. And even this right here on the hourly high time frame even told us that we wanted to sell, right? So sells were actually crystal clear, and I completely fucked up on my part. Anyways, let's jump into 15 minutes, see where we can make some more refinements. Now, what did I see on the 10-minute, right? I saw that we came, swept this, made another low, swept that, right? And my original thought process was, because we were at external liquidity for the intraday, right, I assumed reversals. Now, is what I did right here a bad trade? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. This is actually a fine trade, right? Like there's nothing wrong with this, right? And I want people to be understanding that there's nothing wrong with this from an intraday perspective. From a high time frame perspective, you know, it's a little sketch going against all this order flow right here, all the supply coming in the market, especially after both of them have swept major areas of liquidity, right? We've swept some pretty big pools of liquidity to come to the downside, right? And I just absolutely ignored every high time frame factor and only looked at this little tiny 10-minute OB post sweep, which caused me to not get the right direction of the market. What's funny is, if we were looking at the sell perspective, right, these buys mitigated first, but just as easily, we could have grabbed sells right around this area here, right? Because it would just be, like what I've showed you guys before, break, retest, and then we actually could have gotten the sells to the downside. All right, now if you want to know complete sell perspective, right, get rid of the buy perspective, let's presume buys were not a part of our analysis today, right? We were just looking sells. Well, first of all, in Asia was extremely clear, right? We had this OB coming to here, super simple, we sell after the sweep of liquidity, right? So that's our refinement of this giant 4-hour OB. Now we come back over here, we know this is coming in, right? A lot more supply coming in the market, order flow coming in the market, right? What do we see? This candle's breaking, this candle's causing the break. Did we sweep anything? Yes, but it's running into what? All this order flow here, right? So we know that all this right here will cause price to push down. Knowing that this is all order flow, right? You see me talk about it 1,000 times. Do not put your stops here. Put your stops here, right? There will be a trap for those who trade order flow, right? That trap is usually right here. Price always will try and wick it every single time. Put your stops a little bit above, right? And this should have been the real sells for the day. Now, could we've caught more moves? Sure. Look, we have this, all right, which came in a little bit around 9, 10 o'clock, right? Could we have entered? Absolutely. Well, actually, I don't know. Let's see here. So it looks like this was the candle that broke. This was the candle that caused it. We never got these entries up here. That's fine. All right. Anyways, did this candle get swept again? Yes, it did right here. This candle broke. This was the candle that caused it. If this right here becomes the inducement, and actually this right here is your entry. I went over this with all of my one-on-ones who had sessions with me today, right? Because I know that this right here is very difficult to understand, right? And you can see that we had a 1.6, so we would easily gotten another sell into this area here. Let me go over it one more time so that it makes sense. All right, we had this, which was the original setup, right? This candle come and break, this candle that caused the break, right? This candle and this candle were all that you were looking at originally. As soon as we broke the lows of this candle, right? So this candle breaking this candle here, this new candle now becomes my new point of like interest or whatever you want to call it, right? And now I need to figure out what candle caused this one to break this candle's low. That would be this candle. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Now, because this candle is almost inducing the rest of this wick, that is why the rest of this wick is getting mitigated to cause price to shoot down, right? There is literally intention to every part of price, right? We just have to find the true inducements and the true sweeps. So I hope this makes sense. If you guys are confused about this right here, because I can understand how this is confusing. I've tried going over it a couple times in other breakdowns. I understand that this is very hard to identify, right? So anyone who's in my one-on-ones or anyone who's in my video mentorship, you are more than welcome to request a video on more things like this, or if you're in my one-on-one program, you're more than welcome to have a full hour-long session as to just going over these types of setups. They're rare, they don't happen much, but they do produce some pretty crazy RR trades. No, I did not catch that today. I had a losing day today. I solely took these buys, and then I went in here again for re-entries thinking I was going to buy off the weekly OB, and I broke even on this trade, took a loss on this trade, and that's my first losing trade in, well, first losing trade, first losing day. First losing day in about 3 weeks, 4 weeks, really, of the year. So I'm not too upset. It was only a 1% loss. I think with the break even, it was like about 1.3% loss. I lost like 0.3% on spread or something like that. So not terrible considering that I make around 5-10% a day. So nothing to get too upset about. Anyways, I hope this helped, right? As you can see, we had a very multi-time frame approach all the way into here to really what's going on into this little nitty-gritty shit right here. So for anybody new, hope this helps, right? And for anybody old, you know, I really hope at this point you know what's going on. But yeah, all right. Happy Tuesday.